So I just wanted to share this with anyone who feels like their life is not changing and they're just waking up like, oh, like I got to do this again, because I was there and I was there for a really, really long time. And it felt like no matter what I did, no matter what job I worked, I just felt stuck. And I gave my life to God, and I was praying, and I felt so far away from him. And I was still struggling with going out and drinking and hanging around people I knew I wasn't supposed to be around. I was vaping, and I remember one night I was just praying. I was like, God, I really just need a change. And I woke up one morning and my vape disappeared. It was gone. Like, it didn't make any sense. So I was like, you know what? I looked for this vape, okay? I'm like, this is God. Like, I was like, okay, I'm not going to go buy another one. When I tell you that same day, I was living in Florida, mind you, I made the decision that I was going to move to New York, God willing. I posted my car on Facebook Marketplace. The very next day it sold. So I was like, oh, okay. I sold all my furniture the same day, and the next day, all of it was sold. So I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? I'm going to book my flight. Mind you, I had not found a place to live yet, and I did not have a job, okay? Talk about faith. So booked my flight 30 minutes, because I had applied on Indeed. 30 minutes after booking my flight, I get a phone call from a friend in Florida who goes, so I work out of a company based in New York, and I'm in HR, and I just saw your resume come through. Are you moving to New York? I was like, yes, I am. Are you in New York? She goes, no, I'm still in Florida, but I saw your resume come through. She's like, I already talked to my boss and vouched for you. We're going to go ahead and set up an interview. Literally, this job is supporting my life in New York. It gets even better. I find a place that makes no sense. It was dirt cheap and a great place. Long story short, within that time, I decided I was going to change my life and get rid of all of my vices and fully dedicate my life to God. God changed my life in 6 days completely. And that's just the beginning of the story, okay? So I just want you to know, like, have faith, do the work, and just take the first step. Take that step. It's worth it. It is so worth it, and I wish I knew this so much sooner. And I can share more with you guys, so like, comment, whatever. I'll post a part 2 because it gets real.
I'm at this point in my life where you cannot convince me that God is not real. Let me give you my testimony. So one day last week, I was having this conversation with someone, and we somehow started talking about brand deals and money and how much I'm worth and that I need to start charging top tier dollar for my work. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So fast forward to earlier that day, I did pray. I pray every single morning, and particularly something told me to pray for a brand deal and pray that the money is moneying, okay? So I pray, and remember, fast forward back to this conversation with this person, and I was just so motivated. I'm like, you right. I'm about to email these brands. I'm about to do my rate sheet. I'm really about to get to this bag. I'm on my computer doing what I do, and I get an email from a brand, and this brand is well known, and they were like, hey, your proposal was accepted, because a couple of days later they reached out to me and told me to apply to this campaign. I put out my rate, and I put something crazy on there. I was like, let's just think big. I was like, God, show me how good it can get. That's how I started praying. I say, God, show me how good it can get. So that's what I did when I applied to this deal. I didn't think nothing of it. I hit apply, and a couple of days later, that's when they emailed me back. And remind you, this is that same day I prayed on the brand deal, and I had the conversation with someone about my rates and how much I should be charging. So I get the email, and the email is like, the brand has accepted your proposal. They say your rate is X, Y, and Z, which was the number that I gave them, which was that number where I went way beyond what I would usually do. And I was like, I was too stunned to speak, okay? I was like, what? And immediately my mind went to God. I was like, this is my purpose. God loves me. God needs me to do this. I need to keep doing. I need to step into my power. I was just so amped up, and I was like, God did. And now I don't do anything without God. I don't make decisions without God. I ask him every single morning, every single day to guide my heart and guide my steps, because without him, none of this would be possible. So I'm telling y'all to start including God in y'all plans.
Hold on, before you scroll, I have a story you're not going to want to miss. And it's about how I was supernaturally healed. So my story starts back in 3rd grade. At that time, I had begun to develop epilepsy. Now, what is epilepsy? Epilepsy isn't normal seizures. Epilepsy is a condition where you have chronic seizures of varying degrees. Now, me being obsessed with sports as a young kid, this was obviously incredibly devastating to not just me, but to my entire family. Every doctor that I had went to see had told me, as well as my family, that there is a 0% possibility of my condition ever becoming better. They had told me I was never going to be able to play sports ever again, and that I'd never be able to drive a car, and that my life would never be normal. The only way I could even have a subnormal life was to go on heavy dosages of varying medications. Now, I have tried every single medication out there, truly, and every single one ended up giving me a different side effect. The first medication that I had went on, I very much so remember, because it made me actually incredibly bipolar. I would get angry, sad, and every other emotion you could possibly think of, all at random times for seemingly no reason. And with my other ones, they all had side effects, such as headaches, chronic headaches all the time, dizziness, nausea, anything you can think of, truly. And now, for clarification of what I'm going to talk about, I would have to go in every single week and have a test. This test was to measure how many seizures you would have when you were exposed to flashing strobe lights, basically right in front of your eyes on the table. You can experience tens to hundreds of seizures because it's so isolated and so close to your eyes that that's all you're receiving and that's all your brain is taking in. So for an epileptic like I would have hundreds of seizures on that table, and they can monitor your brain as you're having those seizures. This was how they would see the severity of my seizures, and if it was getting worse, if it was moderately getting better, and vice versa. Now you're probably like, where are you going with this? Well, in short, my last seizure was on the day that my grandfather died. My mom was right next to my grandfather as he passed away in the hospital. And right after he passed, in tears, she said next to his bedside, "Dad, when you get up there, if you could please ask Jesus to heal Caleb because he just needs a miracle." And since that day, I have not had a single seizure of any degree. First, we didn't realize that I was miraculously healed. I had gone on a new medication that we thought was working great because I was symptom free. I hadn't had a seizure, coincidentally, since he died. And my mom, at this time, had not told me that she said this. She told my grandfather this, basically in his dying breath. So, fast forward a couple weeks, I have my checkup for seizures. I'm lying there on that table, and I can vividly remember what it looks like because before I had actually no memory of this whatsoever. Because when you have a seizure, it's basically like a little amnesia episode where you don't remember anything that's going on or what happened at that period of time. The same way that I've been in ambulances so many times, dozens of times, and I have no clue what the inside of one looks like. But what I can remember is the look on my doctor's face when I walked out of that room. It was basically as if he'd seen a ghost. He turned to my parents and to me, and he said, "Well, Caleb didn't have a single seizure in that test." Now, initially, we had all thought it was just like some fluke, right? I mean, come on, it doesn't make any sense. Somebody of one of the worst forms of seizures that you can have, where it's just completely chronic all the time, didn't have any anymore. So he was completely dumbfounded, as were we, and we had nothing to say. He had basically said that what I just experienced isn't possible. And he was right. It wasn't possible. Not by practical or human standards. I was miraculously healed. And after this was when my mom put 2 and 2 together and said, "Oh my gosh. It's from that day that you have not had a seizure." And I was just like, no, there's no way. That can't be. But it was. I have now been seizure-free for almost 11 years. Actually, I think in a few days, it will be 11 years. Now, why am I making this video? Well, it's to encourage you that no matter what your situation is, no matter how hopeless you think your situation is, God is there. I mean, He is there. He is listening. And I don't know why I was healed and somebody else wasn't. And if I could trade my healing to heal somebody on their deathbed, oh my gosh, I wouldn't a heartbeat, because it doesn't seem fair. But this is kind of the question that all Christians suffer with, the suffering question. Why does God heal some people and not heal others? And I don't have an answer to that question because I don't understand His ways. But does He heal? Yes. Yes, He does. I hope that my testimony can just give you some hope, truly, that He is listening, He is there, and you just have to trust His timing. I know that it doesn't seem like it makes sense, but He's outside of the confines of space and time. So what may seem like a long time to you isn't to Him at all. If you've made it this far, I just want to thank you for listening to this testimony. And I just pray that whatever you're going through, God acts in your life. Thank you again for watching this, and God bless.